Alright, how's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be doing another Nomad survival video, and we're going to be going on the character video guides. So, earlier I did the adventure, and now we're going to be looking at the Crusader, who is the second character that you get that is also unlocked at the beginning of the game. If I remember correctly. Yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure. I couldn't remember, honestly. But yeah, so the Crusader is also unlocked at level 1. The Crusader, like every other character, as you go from left to right, his SP is a little bit more than the Adventurer at 200, which still not really that much. His ability is called Smite, and it conjures 3 projectiles with enhanced knockback power. And you also have a persistent aura around you, kind of like colorless glyph. But Spectral Sword doesn't replicate the aura, which is fair. That'd be so OP. And as you go from level 20 to level 40, you get increased projectiles because it's not modifiable. Let's see, where does it read? Amount unmodifiable. So there, you can't increase the number of instances, which is fair because that'd be too OP, unless you had the merchant heritage. But anyways, so Crusader's really fun. I like the Crusader. His ability is pretty strong, especially early on in the game. In regards to what would be the best heritage for the Crusader, like always, I think I'm gonna say Nomad is my favorite personally for every single character. That's just because I like being able to get the weapon skills and the passives that I'm looking for, especially when I was doing the videos. I mean, when I was doing the videos, I needed all those extra rerolls, but just in general, I think Nomad's very strong. Berserker's actually somewhat playable with the Crusader, dealing that extra damage with his ability is very strong because, I mean, it is ranged, and then you have the little aura that's around you, so having that deal double damage is very strong in the early game. Like always, I feel like the Berserker heritage is probably only going to be good on like a handful of characters, and that's just because being a character that has more melee abilities than ranged, which is that little aura, if something gets close to you, you're probably going to take damage. And 1 or 2 instances of that isn't that big of a deal, but if you're not really paying too much attention and you're like slowly getting, 10 damage here, 20 damage here, etc., it's just going to stack up. So Berserker, while double damage is always cool, the fact that you can't heal is very detrimental. So I would give, like, on a scale of 10, like, Nomad's going to be like a 7, maybe a 6, just because it doesn't actually do anything for your damage. But Berserker, I would give like a 4, because you can't heal. Poxbringer's pretty good, just because you can heal, so it's not as impactful. The fact that it does the damage over time, which is what the whole thing is. Poxbringer, it's double damage, but it's over time, so 6 seconds is a long time. If something gets close to you, and you're just hitting it for the first time, it's probably gonna hit you. But since you can heal, it's not that detrimental. You can pick up passives that help you out in these instances. So the Poxbringer, I'd give it a 6, just like the Nomad. Voidwalker I think is very strong for most characters, because it just makes you very difficult to hit. You're a lot more slippery, basically. And since it doesn't do anything for your damage, it's not really that impactful. It just makes it easier to live a lot longer. So I'd probably give Voidwalker, probably 5. I don't think it's that insane. Summoner, I don't really think the Summoner heritage is all that impressive, honestly. It's just like not that good. It does okay boss damage if you can make it to where the mobs actually go after the boss. And I almost strictly only use Summoner when I'm playing Necromancer for fun, just so I can have more summons. And also whenever I'm going for any of those achievements where you have to, like, not move, or you have to not take damage, I think the Summoner is very strong in those instances. But in general, I'd give the Summoner like a 2. And then lastly is the Merchant. This one, it's a little bit more confusing. The character itself, like the sprite, I gotta say, the sprite looks fantastic. These sprites all look really good. But yeah, so you double your weapon skill amount, so that would mean, if we go back, so at level 1 you have 3, so that you would have 6, then you'd have 10, and then you'd have 14 once you hit level 40, which is pretty strong. And And at least one bonus relic is guaranteed every single time you open the chest, which is also extremely strong. This way you get 2 relics per chest. So you have 8 chests, that means you're guaranteed 16 relics. And that's if you don't hit any other bonus rolls. So that's also very strong. And you also have a mount +1. So say you get, what's an easy one? Spectral Bow, I believe, shoots 3 arrows at level 1. So at level 1, it would actually shoot 4 arrows instead of 3, which I think is pretty cool. I'm not sure if this applies every single time you get a weapon ability, though. That'd be a great question. The only negative is that when you level up, you only have 1 skill choice. I think Merchant works very well with the Crusader because you can get through so many levels without relying on the weapon skills. So you're bound to get something that's relevant in those first like 30 or 40 levels. And that's why I think it would be very strong. So Merchant, I'm going to rank the highest at about a 7 or an 8. So I'll go Merchant. And I'm going to do double XP just so we could show off a couple things. And we're going to do Crossroads because I was doing, oh my gosh, I was playing on the Dry Marsh earlier, and good lord, was it bad. I got the knockback skill because it's pretty strong. As you can see, I'm re-rolling a lot. Spectral Sword is always a good pickup in regards to any class. It's gonna do a lot, so that's good. Crusader, I would play very similarly to the Adventure. So what I mean by that is the things you want to prioritize. I mean, if you're going Merchant, don't worry about getting the EXP or the weapon, the item pickup range. The odds are you're not going to be able to hit those, so like not a big deal. But what you want to focus on is making sure you get a weapon skill that is good for bossing. And in my opinion, the best bossing weapon skills, I say this every single time, it's gonna be Magic Missile and Fireball, because you can make sure that those actually hit the boss, because it hits the closest enemy. And a lot of the times you're gonna be standing right next to the boss. So I think that is definitely the strongest skills for killing bosses. And then the other ones I would throw in there is going to be something like Icicle Barrage. Abilities that aim based off of where you're looking. I think that's going to be extremely strong. The reason why I think those are the most important things is because, for the most part, when you're playing with the Merchant Heritage, you're going to have so many of your little orbs going around in circles that you're not going to have to worry about really your normal mobs, honestly. For the most part, you're going to be able to clear these so quickly. It's not even funny. I mean, look how well it's doing. I'm just walking around. It's a good old time. Things that I would look for if you can. Depending on how many rolls you have, like right now I'm kind of just like picking up whatever. Colorless Glyph is an ability that I always really enjoy going with the Crusader, and that's because it just basically doubles what you have already. And I think that's what makes it very strong. You're going to be having two, like, it's not exactly damage over times, but they're kind of like damage over times going on in there. And that's always very good. That means if something gets close to you, you're going to have, you know, a handful of seconds to deal with it. Other than that, so you have your boss skill, you have Colorless Glyph. You can kind of fill in the rest with whatever you want. I like going max weapon skill size because that's always good with Colorless Glyph, as well as the passive that you have, this little aura that's around you that kind of works the same way. Critical Chance is a very strong ability with both of those auras going at the same time, because it's hitting as many times as you could possibly think, and that's very strong. Alright, so we hit level 40. So at level 40, with the Merchant Heritage, you should have 18 little balls going around you, which is insane. Look, we got a colorless glyph too. And fireball, super strong. And for this one, since you don't have all those bonus rerolls, you could get 10 rerolls from the chests, which I would recommend doing every time, because that works really well with the merchant. This way you can make sure that you get what you're looking for, basically. Colorless glyphs first relic doubles the size also. Look at how this looks with SP regen boost also. It's insane. You're like a little tornado. Pretty crazy. But yeah, so like I was saying, you want to have your bossing skills. You want to have colorless glyph, and then you can fill in the rest with whatever you want. I like weapon skill size. I also enjoy chain light chalk because that's just good. But for clear, you don't really have to worry about normal mobs, honestly. You're going to be able to destroy them very, very easily. And then lastly, something that I always think is basically a good choice is going to be Ascension. And it's going to be especially strong when you're playing the Merchant Heritage, because the odds of you getting, you know, all these different passives that you're looking for are very, very low. And if you just saw, that's how quickly the boss dies. That was almost instantaneously. It didn't even get to you. So yeah, overall, I think the Crusader is a very, very strong class with the Merchant Heritage. Obviously, when you're first starting off the game, you're not going to have access to that, so don't worry too much about it. The Merchant isn't like a be-all, end-all, but with the Merchant Heritage, you're definitely going to do significant damage increase. So with the Merchant Heritage, I'd like to give Crusader an 8, maybe a 7. Without the Merchant Heritage, I would give it a 5. The reason being, if you're playing Crusader with any of the other heritages, you're really on the same level as the Adventure. You know, your weapon skill is very strong for clearing normal mobs, but it's significantly weaker the later the game goes on, because the damage isn't really that insane. So it really depends on what weapon skills you pick up. I would do the same formula for both. I mean, like I was saying a bajillion times, you want a weapon skill for the boss. You want to make sure that you have colorless glyph. I think is good on both of those classes. It's just an additional kind of extra damage close to you, and both of these characters play very close to themselves. And then just fill in the rest with whatever you want. Weapon skill size is always good. If you have the extra rerolls, like say you're playing Nomad, I always recommend EXP as well as item pickup range, because that'll help you level up a lot faster. But yeah, Crusader's very good. It's a good step up from the Adventure, and you have access to Crusader early on in the game. So if you guys liked the video, let me know down below. Like and subscribe as always. I greatly appreciate it. I'm having a ton of fun making these videos. I will be moving on to the next class pretty soon here, and I will see you on the next one.